everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Ink and Paper Crafting with Nicole. I have some exciting news to share today. Sale-a-bration starts January 7th and runs through to the end of February. So how does this work, you ask? For every $75 or $150 you spend on Stampin' Up! Products before tax and shipping, you get to choose a free Sale-a-bration product. Yep, that's right. Free goodies with every order. But that's not all. On January 7th, we are also launching a brand new mini catalog. And if you saw one of my latest videos, you got a sneak peek of one of the items I purchased. Trust me, there are some really cute products in this catalog. You won't want to miss it. Now let's dive into today's project. I'm working on a double page layout and I'm using the beautiful Bokeh 6x6 papers for this project. Aren't these patterns gorgeous? They've got a beautiful mix of pinks and purples and even blue and yellow and orange. As a boy mom, I'm always particular about colors and patterns when choosing products, but these papers have something for everyone. I also purchased the full suite, which includes these adorable itty bitty Bokeh mix embellishments. Look at all the glittery goodness. I love the colors and I can already tell this is going to be perfect for shakers. Along with the suite, I received this stamp and die set as well as the hybrid embossing folder. I've already started playing with this set and I've created a few pieces for myself. And to keep my dies organized, I've put them on a magnetic sheet, which is super handy. This die cut cuts out the stamp butterfly. There's also a die to cut out another butterfly, which cuts both the interior and the outline. If you're familiar with the Changing Leaves stamp bundle, to name just one in particular, this hybrid embossing folder works similarly, but this one of course features beautiful butterflies. And I'll show you more about how this works later on in the video. Just as a reminder, this whole suite is available to purchase from our mini catalog launching on January 7th. Now, if you've seen any of my previous layouts or videos, you would have seen I typically don't create soft layouts, and I don't often work with pinks and purples on my pages. Honestly, I wasn't going to purchase this collection until I took this picture of my youngest son, Evan, and his longtime friend, Landon. The moment I looked back at this photo, I knew I needed this paper. Look at how perfect this matches the picture. After we got home from this event, I immediately placed my order for this suite. And I can't wait to share more about these pictures with you as we go along. For this layout's foundation, I'm starting with a sketch from Allison Davies. At the end of this video, I'll show you a picture of the sketch I used. So I already had an idea of what I'm doing. As per usual, I started with basic white cardstock. I've cut 6 4x4 squares for the left side of the layout using pattern papers in 3 main colors: Fresh Freesia, Berry Burst, and Balmy Blue. On the right, I trimmed 2 pieces of Fresh Freesia cardstock to about 6x7, and I'm going to sandwich these together, creating a pocket to place the playbook from the performance our school's drama program puts on every year. This year's play was Sleeping Beauty, but not the traditional version we're all familiar with. It had a fun, unique twist. And with such a neat keepsake, I wanted to keep this with my layout. I'll show you how I'm going to create this pocket in just a bit. Now for the photos I'm documenting. So during the performance, photography is not allowed, but luckily one of my very good friends and talented photographer takes pictures of the performance during the dress rehearsal. She's been doing this for the drama club for years now, and her photos are always fantastic. Aren't these great? For the 2 smaller photos, I had to print them at an unusual size to crop out some of the other performers. But they're approximately 3x4 and 2 3/4x4. So I'm thinking of placing these 2 photos here, but I can't decide if I want them sitting straight or slightly angled. What do you guys think? The other 3 photos I printed to 4x5 3/4. which of course one I printed in landscape. And this does include the white border. I guess I'll figure this out as I go, but in the meantime, I'm going to ink the edges with black ink. I don't know about everybody else, but I've been adding dimension to my layouts like this for years. I love the effect it gives, and it helps to separate my pattern papers. I used to apply the ink directly to my paper from the ink pad, but now I prefer using a sponge dauber. What do you guys use? After I distress the edges of both pieces of cardstock, it doesn't matter if my cuts aren't identical. No one will notice because the edges are black on both sides. I'll finish up the rest of this technique off camera. I'm using red line tape. I purchased this product from Stampin' Up, but sadly it is no longer available. However, tear and tape adhesive would work, or any strong adhesive you have in your stash. I would recommend something that is a really strong hold, like maybe score tape, which is another great option. I'm going to run a strip of the tape along 3 of the 4 sides, leaving the top of the longer side open. This will create a pocket once I've attached the 2 pieces together. To assemble, I'll remove one side of the backing on the tape and start with the second piece, pulling it back slightly. Once I have the edges matched up, I can remove the rest of the adhesive backing and press it down to secure the pocket. Once both pieces are together, I can remove the last strip of the backing from the adhesive. If there's any areas that aren't perfect, I'll just use my scissors to trim them. The inking effect really helps to hide any imperfections. Later on, I'm going to use some more red line tape to attach the pocket to the layout. Now that I've created my pocket and it's somewhat in place, I've attached the other pattern papers to the layout, excluding the pocket for the playbook. For now, the playbook is placed approximately in its final spot, but I'm going to set it aside and continue with the rest of the design. My focal photo needs a bit of help. Even though the background of the pictures is dark and the white border helps, I think a larger black mat would really add some interest. I'm really liking that. Actually, I want to add lots of black to this layout, so double matting all the photos with black is a great place to start. I think the black and white mats will help the pictures really stand out on this layout. I'll finish matting them off camera, but all the pictures are going to end up with an 1/8 of an inch mat, and the focal photo will have about a 1/4 of an inch reveal. To add even more black, I'm going to shift the pocket over about 1/2 an inch and add this black strip of cardstock along the edge of the layout. I did this for 2 reasons. Not only to add more black, of course, I also didn't like the space between the picture of Evan and Landon and the pocket. And as you know, what you do to one side, I do to the other, keeping balance within the layout. For my title, I turned to my Cricut and created this using the print then cut method. To add more detail to the layout and to tie in with my title, I found this mask of stars from a past paper pumpkin kit. I never used it to create the cards, but I sure am glad I kept it. I think adding random stars along the top and the bottom of the pictures will look really cool on both sides of my layout. My goal here is to match the wings of Landon's costume. But before I get too far, I'm going to mark off with a pencil where I want to start and use a ruler to help me line things up for the left side. I'll set the pictures and the cardstock aside and get ready off camera, gathering all my supplies I need. The ink colors I'm using are Pool Party, Boho Blue, and Blackberry Bliss. I don't have the exact Stampin' ink colors from this collection, but I think these colors will complement them nicely, and when blended together, they'll create some beautiful shades. Let's give it a try and see what happens. I'm going to start with Pool Party, holding the mask in place with my fingers. I also placed a scrap piece of paper beside the mask to prevent the ink from being applied past the edges. I'll lightly Apply ink to different areas of the mask with my blending brush. I like using smaller brushes for this small of a mask to have more control. I'm going to change out the colors as I go, and if they overlap, that's okay. It will just add to the effect. Wow, that looks so good! While I work on this, it might be a good time to tell you a bit more about my photos. As I mentioned, these pictures were taken at my son's school performance of Sleeping Beauty from this year. While the play followed the traditional story, there were some unique characters added, and Landon's role was one of those creative additions. He played Edna, a magical fairy who wasn't as pretty or as fairy-like as the others. I've known Landon a long time. This was the first time I saw him with so much confidence. He absolutely nailed his part and stole the show. Don't get me wrong, every performance was phenomenal, but Landon's was extra special. He even had additional lines outside of the play. While the props were being moved, he kept the audience entertained, and during intermission, he interacted with the drama teacher, talking about new changes to his costume. He may have changed his boots, bag, and bow, but that wasn't the only B word that changed. I'll let your imagination figure that one out. I'll finish the rest of this off camera to save some time. And I absolutely love how this is turning out. I still want to add more black and maybe kind of grunge it up a bit. So here's another new stamp set available from the mini catalog called Elements of Text. I love the idea of adding some text around the stars, you know, like a script, and then adding some splatters to make it a bit messier. After all, Edna's character was a bit of a mess. I also wanted to show you how I store my cling stamps. After I've placed the stickers on the stamps, I used the carrier sheet the stickers came on and attached it to the underside of the stamps. I find it easier to remove the stamps from this than the plastic case it comes in. I also keep the rubber carrier sheet the stamps are packaged in, so I can always check if I'm missing a stamp. I'm going to stamp the script in random areas. I'm not even using a block, I'm just sticking it to my fingers. I'll place one here at the top left and down at the bottom left. As for the splatters, I'll stamp them in random areas, turning the stamp as I go. On the right side, I'll repeat the same process. Oh right, I almost forgot. I have a 1/2 inch strip of cardstock on the edge. Oh well, I'll just stamp over a bit. But as for the left side, I really like the way that the stamp turned out. So what if I move the black strip over beside my pattern squares? Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'll keep stamping around the page and show you the end result. I'm back. Most of my pictures are now attached to my foundation pages, and I'm ready to start creating some embellishments. I'm so excited to show you some of what I've created with this stamp bundle. First, I used the same 3 stamping inks as before and applied them with blender brushes to a 6x6 piece of white cardstock, creating this ombre effect, again to match Edna's wings. Then I ran it through the embossing folder with the die cut to cut out the large butterfly. And because all butterflies need a little bit of glitter, I used my Wink of Stella to add some glitter around. The next butterfly I made was created the same way with the ink blending, but this time I used the die cut that cuts both the interior and the outer lines of the insect. Although this turned out very pretty, it wasn't quite the look I was going for. Then I tried stamping with black ink onto the same cardstock I had colored. It's not perfect with my cut here, but it gives you kind of the idea. I felt like I was getting closer to what I was envisioning. Then I thought, what if I stamp directly onto the stamp using the 3 different colors? This way I can run it through the embossing folder and give it some dimension, and I can use my Wink of Stella as well to add shine and glitter. I still get the ombre effect I'm looking for, again, to match Edna's wings, but this is a little bit more crisp in the design, and the colors are a lot more vibrant. I just love the texture you get from that embossing folder. And can you see the shine? Next, I used the die cut from this bundle to cut out the body and attached 3 bodies together to give it some dimension. I really like the fact that this stamp bundle set comes with the body separate instead of attached to the butterfly. It gives it so much more versatility. I've made one embossed butterfly and one that wasn't, and I can't decide which one I like better, so I'm going to use both. They're both the winners. I started with a few pieces of white cardstock cut down to 4.5 by 6. Again, I'm using Pool Party, Boho Blue, and Blackberry Bliss as my 3 ink colors. For this project, I am using my Mini Misty. This was a Christmas gift this year, and I absolutely love it. I'm placing a piece of cardstock against the 2 edges of my Misty, the top and the left side. There's a magnet here to keep the cardstock in place. Then I will place the stamp on the cardstock where I want it to stamp. After that, I close the door and pick up the stamp. Let me just reposition this paper and the magnet here and get started on the effect I want. I'm going to start with the Pool Party ink first. It's the lightest of the 3 colors and easier to cover over lighter shades than the other way. Plus, when the colors mix, they create some beautiful shades. Oh, I almost forgot. You're going to want a piece of paper towel or a soft rag handy. I'm going to apply the ink directly onto the stamp, concentrating on the bottom of the stamp. If you get some ink in areas you don't want, simply use the towel to blot it off. You'll also want to clean up any ink that made it onto the door of the platform. Once that's done, close the door, press it down fairly well, and look at that. Make sure your cardstock is back in the same position. This is very important. Now for the next color, Boho Blue. I'm applying the ink only in the middle of the stamp this time. Again, blotting off the areas I don't want the color in. It doesn't have to be perfect because you want the colors to blend into each other. Now on the wing tips, I'll apply the last color, Blackberry Bliss. I'm going to turn the Misty to get a better angle on this one. Then once again, blot off any excess, push the door closed, and there you go, all done. And I think it's a pretty close match to his wings. What do you think? I'm going to emboss this one and then cut it out. Even though this is a hybrid folder that can cut and emboss at the same time, I prefer to run the paper through separately. I would have to switch out my plates to run it through the other way. And now I'm going to add Wink of Stella to give it some shine and glitter. I'm applying glitter to the areas that are colored, which really helps make these parts of the butterfly pop. Just like the first butterfly I made, I layered 3 bodies I cut out of black cardstock. My layout is back in view. Here I am showing you that I added some faux stitching around the 4x4 squares. It was in the sketch and I liked the look it gives the layout. To tie the 2 sides together, I want to add some of the pattern papers from the left to the right side. I have a few scraps here and I thought I could tuck them under the photo here. Since there is already fresh fuchsia on the right side, I was going to incorporate a piece of the blue and the purple patterns. Then I can use one of my butterfly embellishments to cover this spot right here. So now I'm thinking my son is wearing green in this picture. So to pull that color in and to add a border between the pictures and the stars, I wanted to find something that I thought would work in this space. I looked around my crafty space and saw this stack of cards sitting on my desk. These are called Thoughtful Journey Memories and More cards. They were sent to me by Chelsea, and due to the postal strike, I just received them. I can see a lot of future layouts with these cards incorporated, but look at how beautifully this matches my layout. But as I'm looking at the underside of this card, I see a strip with Mossy Meadow in it, along with other colors like Blackberry Bliss, Boho Blue, and Pool Party. And even though these aren't the exact colors in the Bokeh collection, I feel it complements the colors nicely. I like the separation it gives to the layout. I only have 2 cards like this, so I'll have to get crafty about how I cut them. I want the green showing down the side of the picture, so I'll cut it along this line and then cut it across the top, creating a piece that looks like an L. I used my trimmer for this, but really I could have just used my scissors. I'll show you what I mean here, and then I'll complete the rest off camera. I'll cut it up from the bottom, following this line to about 1/4 of an inch. Then I'll flip the paper, leaving 1/4 of an inch again, and cut it down to meet, to cut it down to meet my cut there. Just like that. Then I have this leftover piece to cut my strips from, like this. To add the stripes to the left side, I'll tuck a piece under the focal photo here. This helps tie the 2 sides together and makes the entire layout feel more cohesive. By repeating elements and colors across the layout, it creates a balance and unifies the design that ties everything together. The top right-hand corner next to the title is looking a bit bare, so I used a star die cut from my stash, cutting it out of fresh Freesia cardstock. Then I'll ink the edges in black to help it stand out more. To add a bit of personality, I used a stamp set from my stash called Later Skater from Close to My Heart and stamped the words "No Fear" on the star. I love the bold look of the letters, and it fits perfect on this layout because Landon showed no fear on stage. From the same stamp set, I also used the sentiment "I do my own stunts" and stamped it at the bottom of the pocket I created for the playbook, adding one more fun detail. I realized I had a lot more to say than I initially thought, so I printed my journaling onto a piece of white cardstock. I used Microsoft Word and inserted my text inside a text box the size of the stitched tag die cut I wanted to use. I wasn't too concerned with the length, just the width. I adjusted my first sentence to create enough space to cut the tag without clipping the words. When it came time to cut it out, I placed the die on my Big Shot plates, but let the edge hang off the plates so it wouldn't cut. Then I flipped the paper over and repeated the process on the other side, making sure the top of the die hung off this time. Once that was done, I added a piece of black baker's twine to the top and placed the tag in the pocket with the playbook. For the final touch, I'll add some itty bitty bokeh sequins around the layout. I'll use Barely Art glue, dabbing it here and there, adding 1 sequence in each spot. I know this sounds like tedious work, but the effect that this is going to give to the layout makes it all worth it. Oh, and I almost forgot to add the date. I used this tab punch from Stampin' Up. I love their punches because you can lock them into place, saving space in your drawer. Then I used a very old stamp set from the Day to Day collection. This was part of the Stampin' Up Project Life set from years ago. I used this stamp for all kinds of calendar layouts, and it's still handy today. I'll just tuck it in here and add the date in a little bit. As promised, here's the sketch I used as my starting point. You can see I kept the 4x4 squares and swapped the waves for the star pattern. From here, I just made it my own. I really enjoy using sketches. They're a great jumping off point to spark creativity. And by the end, my layout often looks nothing like the initial sketch. Now, if you don't want to spend time gluing each individual sequence, starting today, January 7th, you can get purple adhesive back sequence for free with a $75 purchase. That's in Canadian dollars. They complement this collection really well and would work as a substitute for the Bokeh mix. Here's a close-up of my layout to give you a better look of all the sequins I added. As you can see, they add a nice touch of sparkle and dimension, bringing attention to the details while still keeping that messy but pretty feel I was going for. I love how the sequence catches the light and creates extra texture around the butterflies and stars. It really brings everything together. I hope this process video has inspired you and given you some ideas for your own scrapbooking projects. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to like and share this video. It really helps me out a lot here on YouTube. Your support means so much to me. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I release a new video every week, and by subscribing, you won't miss any of my upcoming projects or tutorials. And if you've missed any of my previous videos, you can check out this one right here. I will also list all the items I used to create this layout in the description box below, so you can easily find everything you need to make this layout. And for a closer look of my design, head over to my Instagram page. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.